So let's crank things up with some football talk. The Manning Passing Academy was this past weekend. Obviously, that's always a big, big deal here in South Louisiana. It's really kind of a big, big deal for the college football world because you've got some of the best quarterbacks in the country that come down to Thibodeau, and they spend time with Archie and Peyton and Eli, and Arch is there as kind of a headliner, and always the LSU quarterbacks go down there and enjoy a couple of days, and Garrett Nussmeier was in that number, along with Arch Manning and Lenora Sellers and Cade Klubnik. I mean, there are lots of quarterbacks that are going to be headlining this fall in college football that were down there in Thibodeau over the weekend. And Garrett Nussmeier was able to sit down with the media and answer a few questions. And Beck, we'll start with number 4 here. This is something that it was a leading question by one of the reporters. I don't mean that in a negative way, but it was just they said, like, Brian Kelly has said this is the most talented roster he's had at LSU. And Garrett Nussmeier has been at LSU the whole time Brian Kelly has been at LSU and 1 year previous to Brian Kelly arriving on campus. So Garrett Nussmeier has seen the exact same thing that Brian Kelly has seen in Baton Rouge. And this was Garrett's follow-up to, like, hey, Brian Kelly said this is the best team y'all have had.
Well, he's not lying. It's definitely the most talented roster that I've been a part of at LSU. It's the closest team I've been a part of at LSU from top to the bottom of the roster. And so it's very exciting. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of expectations for us. We accept those expectations. And, I think that not only is there an expectation for us from the outside, but there's also an expectation for us from within.
And that's all, I think, right on point with everybody outside the program as well, is looking at this roster going, okay, you've got some recruiting classes you've stacked up, you've got some playmakers and weapons that you've cultivated in-house, and you've also got some guys that you've added via the transfer portal that you're asking to do big things, and everybody feels like this is going to be a really, really talented team. And I'm going to get to my end point here after this soundbite, but I'll play this as Garrett Nussmeier talking about having a lot of different guys that have come in from different schools that are going to have to gel to become one team with huge expectations this fall.
Yeah, it's been huge. Obviously in this new era of college football, you have transfers and things like that. And the most important thing I think we've underlined is that, we have to be close. We have to create a chemistry, and I think we've done an unbelievable job with that. Whether it's you see the videos of us playing in the pool at Coach Kelly's house, or just hanging out over there, or doing different things, on our own time, just spending time around each other as much as we can, getting those transfers as comfortable as we can, and just trying to build that chemistry.
And that's all awesome. Like, it's great that LSU invested heavily in the transfer portal and signed some of the best players that were available to them. It's great that they've got a fifth-year senior quarterback coming back who is the most productive passer in the nation returning to school. It's great that they're going to Brian Kelly's for a pool party. It's great that Garrett Nussmeier feels like it's the most talented and most together team that he's been a part of. All that is awesome. And it all kind of funnels back to one of my, pillar talking points since I've been sitting in this chair now for 4 years. Pillar talking points. The college football calendar is so consistent. It starts in January, where you're hiring new coordinators and picking up recruits, and you're getting transfers in, and you've hired a new strength coach, and all that happens, and then you go to spring practice, and all the reports are glowing, and then you've got this time of year where they're not practicing, nobody's torn an ACL out there yet, nobody's broken a collarbone in an Oklahoma drill, nobody's lost a game for sure. And everybody's really feeling good about themselves, right? Everybody feels like this is a team that's going to put it together. This is the team that's going to overachieve. This is the 3 guys that the national media is sleeping on. This is it's eternal optimism this time of year because of sessions like this. And certainly it beats the alternative of, not having a talented roster and nobody caring, and, it could be worse, but it's also tough for me to really sink my teeth in and be like, oh, see, this is the ticket. Now, there is one significant change to this messaging season of LSU football. And it's been talked about by the head coach, and it's now being talked about by the quarterback. And it's a focus on the first game of the season. Garrett Nussmeier talked about playing at Clemson and the challenge that will present, even though he feels like he's got a really, really talented team that is as together as any team that he's been a part of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be loud. It's going to be, a very intense environment, and it's something that, we welcome, we invite. It's a great opportunity. You come to LSU to play in environments like that. You get to play in a night game against another top-ranked team on prime time, They got a lot of players that are going to play for a long time, and so do we. And so, it's going to be a dogfight, and I think that we've attacked every single day with that mindset, like you said, just to go 1-0.
1-0 is something that Garrett Nussmeier said. It's a 15-minute interview session. I'm not playing you 15 minutes of clips here. He said 1-0 4 or 5 times in this interview sit-down and realizes that it's very difficult with the expectations that have been created for this specific LSU team. It's difficult to reach those if you lose another opener. It just is. And that's not something we have heard a lot of in summers past. Like, Brian Kelly has been open and was at the spring meeting saying, like, I have never in my career hung things on the wall in the facility talking about one football game to open the season. And they have done that this year. They have all their eyes focused on Clemson. And you can take that as a negative or as a positive as a fan. You can go, good, they better do that. They've lost 5 in a row. And you can say, well, they shouldn't do that. There's more season after the Clemson game. And you're not wrong either way, just the way that you feel about that messaging. What it doesn't change is that they're doing it. They are making sure that they are focused on that game and being ready to play that game. And that's a different message than we've heard. And this is also a different message than what we've heard from Garrett Nussmeier, just naturally speaking, because this time last year, he had never been a full-time starter. He has been a full-time starter. How much different is this summer than last summer was for the incumbent starting quarterback?
Oh, it's huge. Night and day difference, being able to go back and watch a full season of tape and to study myself and work on the things that I know I need to improve on and be able to, have substance there to identify those mistakes and find those corrections. So it's been really, really huge for me, something that, I'm very looking forward to being able to, get out on the field this fall and correct those mistakes.
Here's something I'm going to buy in on with Garrett Nussmeier. I think with his background, growing up with a dad as a coach, not like just some Joe high school coach, like at the highest level of college football, at the highest level of football, period. Garrett Nussmeier's been there with Doug. So I believe his background is going to allow him to analyze his performance a little bit more aptly than maybe someone without that background could. And I think there is a chance that he could really make some strides from what he was last year. He's had the same quarterbacks coach now for 4 years. He's a second-year starter. He's a fifth-year player. There's not much he hasn't seen to this point. Now, the question was asked of Garrett, like, okay, no, you've watched all that film and stuff, and, like, what are you trying to work on?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely no question that I didn't, use my legs enough last year and I wasn't mobile enough. And so I definitely made that a point of emphasis for me this year and this offseason, just as far as, weight training and things like that. Just, making myself, more twitchy and things like that. And so it's definitely been a good offseason. I think Coach Flynn has done a really good job. I think the whole team has kind of attacked the weight room and conditioning and a very, very strong mindset, a 1-0 mindset, as we keep talking about. So I think it's been very good.
This is such an easy correction to make. Like, it is so easy. I need to run more. Like, how easy is that to correct? It's hard to correct. Well, I'm Jameis Winston. I threw 20 interceptions last year. Like, that's just part of throwing the football. It's hard to correct things that you're physically unable to do. Just instead of keeping your eyes locked in down the field, like, just tuck it and go get 6 yards. Like, that is so easy to correct. And if he saw on tape, like, how often me and you, who are either zoomed out on the television or sitting inside Tiger Stadium, see the field and go, run! Like, that's easy to see. It's easy to do. I'm not asking for him to run for 1,000. I'm asking him to run 3 more times a game and go get the 6 yards when they're there instead of trying and then forcing it down the field. Just go run. And I think he's going to do that. And now there's one more talking point I want to get to here, which is the inevitable comparisons between Garrett Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. I'm going to push back on those today, in 2 weeks when we go to Atlanta for media days, when they start fall camp, leading up to the Clemson game. Like, I'm going to push back on, well, he might win the Heisman. Like, that's hard to do. It's hard to win the Heisman. It's hard to be as good as Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels were in their final college years. And the odds are Garrett Nussmeier won't be quite that good. He could be. He could win the Heisman. Absolutely. Am I going to say, well, Burrow won the Heisman and Daniels won the Heisman, so he's probably going to win the Heisman? I'm not going to do that. But I think there's a chance that he could have a really good year. I like his answer to this question when asked about the leap that Burrow and Daniels made and then him going into his second year at LSU.
I'm Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not Jaden Daniels. I'm not Joe Burrow. I'm Garrett Nussmeier. And so I'm going to be the best Garrett Nussmeier that I can be, and hopefully it's enough for the LSU Tigers.
Garrett Nussmeier is a better quarterback than he is a quote. He's generally pretty vanilla in front of the mic, and this is one of those vanilla answers. But if he means that to his core and knows that he doesn't have to do the things that he watched Jaden Daniels do, then I think he'll be okay. And look, I'm not trying to pour cold water on this whole thing at all. I think that LSU's offense is going to be great this year. I just don't want to immediately hold Garrett Nussmeier right directly to the greatest 2 seasons in the history of quarterback at LSU and say, if you don't reach that, you've failed. LSU's got to do a lot of things around Garrett Nussmeier to be as good as they need to be. They got to play much better defense. They've got to run the ball significantly better. They need to be more dynamic on the outside at wide receiver. There are things that are out of his control that have to go well for LSU to reach where they're going to be, but he's got to be central to LSU's best efforts. And I think he knows that. I know he knows that. And he doesn't have to do exactly what those other 2 guys. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.